Françaises, Français, mes chers compatriotes,
French
je m'adresse
citizens,
à vous ce soir en raison de la situation
I'm speaking to you
internationale
tonight
et de ses
in light
conséquences pour
of
notre
the
pays et
current
pour l'Europe.
international climate and the
Là,
consequences
après
that will have
plusieurs semaines
on
d'action
Europe
diplomatique.
and France.
Vous
From a
êtes en effet,
diplomatic
je le
point of
sais,
view,
légitimement inquiet devant les
you
événements
are quite
historiques en
rightly
cours
concerned about
qui
the
bouleversent
historical events that
l'ordre
are taking
mondial.
place right now and that
La
are
guerre en
shaking up
Ukraine,
the world
qui a
order.
entraîné près d'un
The war
million de
in
morts et de
Ukraine,
blessés,
which has already
continue avec
caused
la même intensité.
millions of deaths and displaced
Les
persons,
États-Unis
is
d'Amérique,
continuing
notre
to
allié, ont changé leur
is
position sur
continuing
cette guerre,
in
soutiennent
our
moins l'Ukraine et
region.
laissent planer le doute sur la suite.
Support to Ukraine
Dans le même
is
temps, les mêmes
uncertain,
États-Unis
and yet
d'Amérique
at the same time, the United
entendent
States of
imposer des
America
tarifs
are
douaniers
striving
aux produits venant
to
d'Europe.
implement tariffs on
Enfin,
products being
le monde
sent out from
continue
Europe.
d'être sans cesse plus brutal
And the
et
world
la
is
menace
continuing to
terroriste
be as
ne
brutal
faiblit pas.
as ever, and the
Au
terrorist threat
total,
is still as present
notre
as ever.
prospérité et notre sécurité
And yet our prosperity
sont devenues
and
plus
our
incertaines.
security have
Il faut
become
bien le
as
dire. Nous
uncertain
rentrons dans
as
une
ever
nouvelle
before.
ère.
It is with
La guerre en Ukraine dure
clarity that I
maintenant
can say
depuis
that
plus
we
de
are
3
moving
ans.
into a new
Nous
era.
avons, dès
The
le
war in
premier
Ukraine
jour,
has
décidé de
been
soutenir l'Ukraine
ongoing
et
for
de
some 3
sanctionner la
years
Russie.
now. We
Et nous
took
avons
decisions
bien
to
fait.
sanction
Car
Russia,
c'est non
and we were
seulement le
right
peuple
in doing
ukrainien qui
so,
lutte avec
because it's
courage pour sa liberté,
not just the
mais
Ukrainian
c'est aussi
people who are
notre
fighting
sécurité
bravely for their
qui est
safety,
menacée.
but it is our
En effet, si
very
un pays peut
security
envahir
that is under
impunément
threat.
son voisin en Europe,
Having a
alors personne ne peut plus
country
être sûr de rien.
invading
C'est
their
la loi du plus
neighbor
fort qui s'applique
with
et la paix
impunity,
ne
that
peut plus
is
être
a
garantie sur
dire
notre
message
continent même.
for the rest of the world, saying that peace
L'histoire
is under
nous
threat
enseigne.
around the world. And we have learned from
Au-delà
the
de
mistakes of the past.
la menace russe est là
The Russian
et
threat
touche les
is
pays
ever
d'Europe.
present
Nous,
and is on European
la Russie a
borders. It
déjà
is
fait du
affecting all of
conflit
us.
ukrainien un conflit
Russia
mondial.
has
Elle
already
a
turned
mobilisé
the
sur
war in
notre
Ukraine into a
continent
global
des
conflict.
soldats nord-coréens, des
We have
équipements
North
iraniens,
Korean
tout en aidant
soldiers,
ces
we have
pays
Iranian
à s'armer
forces,
davantage.
all
La
seeking
Russie du président
to
Poutine
bolster their
viole
forces.
nos frontières pour assassiner des opposants, manipule
Russia
les
is
élections en
crossing
Roumanie, en Moldavie.
borders to
Elle organise
influence what
des
is
attaques
happening in
numériques
Moldova,
contre nos
in
hôpitaux
Romania.
pour en bloquer le fonctionnement.
They are
La
impeding the
Russie
operations
tente de
of
manipuler
our
nos opinions
hospitals.
avec des mensonges diffusés sur les
They
réseaux
are
sociaux.
spreading
Une fois,
lies
elle
on
teste
social
nos
media,
limites. Elle
and
le
they
fait
are
dans les
pushing
airs,
our limits.
en
They
mer,
are
dans
doing it in
l'espace
the
et
air,
derrière
on
nos
the
écrans.
soil, and in space, and
Cette
even on
agressivité
our
ne
screens.
semble pas connaître de frontières.
It seems
Et la
that this
Russie, dans le
war
même temps,
knows no
continue de
bounds.
se réarmer, dépensant plus de
Russia
40%
is
de son
continuing
budget
to
à cette fin.
weaponize,
D'ici 2030,
increasing budgets. By now and
elle prévoit
2030,
d'encore accroître
Russia
son
is
armée,
going to
d'avoir 300 000
increase the
soldats
scope of its army with
supplémentaires, 3 000 chars,
1.5
300 avions de
million
chasse de
additional
plus.
soldiers,
Qui
7,000
peut
tanks,
donc
and
croire, dans
1,500
ce contexte,
fighter jets. So
que
given
la
that
Russie d'aujourd'hui
observation,
s'arrêtera à l'Ukraine?
who is going to say that Russia is going to stop at Ukraine?
Est devenue, au moment où je vous
Russia
parle et pour les années à
has
venir,
become
une menace pour la
now
France et
and
pour
will
l'Europe.
continue to be a threat for
Je le
France and for
regrette très
Europe.
profondément.
It is with deep regret
Et
that I
dans un
make such
plus
an
à long
observation,
terme,
but I'm convinced that
la
in the
paix se
long
fera
term,
sur notre continent
peace
avec
will
une
return
Russie-
to
une
Europe,
Russie redevenue apaisée et
with
pacifique.
Russia once again
Mais la
peaceful.
situation que je vous décris
But the
est celle-là
current
et nous devons
situation
faire
is
avec.
what it is, and we have to deal with it
Alors face
as
à
it
ce monde
is.
de danger, rester spectateur serait une folie.
Given the world of
Il
danger that we
s'agit
live
sans
in,
plus tarder
standing idly by
de
would be
prendre des
madness.
décisions
So
pour
we have to
l'Ukraine, pour la
take decisions
sécurité des
now
Français,
for
pour la
Ukraine, for the
sécurité des
security of
Européens.
French people, for Europe.
Pour l'Ukraine d'abord.
First, for
Toutes les
Ukraine.
initiatives qui aident à la paix vont dans le bon
All
sens et je
peace
tiens à les
initiatives
saluer.
are heading in the right
Nous
direction,
devons continuer
and we
d'aider les
welcome
Ukrainiens à résister
progress being made. We need
jusqu'à ce qu'ils
to
puissent
continue
négocier avec la Russie
enabling
une paix solide
Ukrainians
pour
to
eux-mêmes
resist so that
et
they
pour nous
can
tous.
end up in a
C'est pour
stable
cela que
situation
le
for
chemin
themselves,
qui
but
mène à la
stability
paix
for
ne peut
us
pas
as well.
passer par l'abandon de
And that is
l'Ukraine.
why peace
Bien au
cannot
contraire.
be
La
achieved
paix
by
ne peut pas
abandoning
être conclue à
Ukraine.
n'importe quel prix.
Peace cannot
Et
come at
le
any
diktat
price,
russe. La paix ne peut
and it
pas être
cannot
la
come
capitulation de l'Ukraine.
from
Elle ne
Russia
peut pas être
dictating
son
the terms.
effondrement. Elle ne
Peace
peut
for
pas
Ukraine
davantage
can't
se traduire par un
come with the
cessez-le-feu qui
collapse
serait
of
trop fragile.
Ukraine.
Et pourquoi? Parce que là aussi, nous avons l'expérience du passé.
And we have seen
Nous ne
this
pouvons
happen
pas
in the
oublier
past.
que la Russie a commencé d'envahir l'Ukraine dès
Who
2014
can forget
et que
that
nous
this
avons alors
invasion
négocié un
started back in
cessez-le-feu à Minsk.
2014, and
Et
that
la
there
même
was a
Russie
ceasefire that was agreed to
n'a
in
pas
Minsk,
respecté ça.
and that same
Nous
Russia
n'avons pas
did
été
not
capables
uphold the
maintenir
the ceasefire
l'équilibre
agreement.
faute de garanties solides.
So we cannot have
Aujourd'hui, on ne
stability
peut plus
without
croire la Russie, c'est pas
robust guarantees. We
L'Ukraine
cannot take
a
them at
droit
their
à la
word.
paix et la
Ukraine has
sécurité
a
pour
right to
elle-même.
peace and security
Et
for
c'est notre
itself,
intérêt, c'est
and it is
l'intérêt de
in
la
our
sécurité du
interest,
continent européen.
and it is
C'est en
in the
ce
interest
sens
of
que nous
security
travaillons
in
avec
Europe,
nos amis
and that is why
britanniques,
we're working closely with
allemands et
our
plusieurs
British,
autres pays
German
européens.
allies and many
Pourquoi
other
vous m'avez vu
European
célébrer
nations. That is why you have seen me in these past few weeks engage with numerous of these people in Europe, in London, to draft the commitments that are the base requirements for Ukraine. For us to sign a peace agreement where Ukraine will no longer be invaded by Russia, we have to do so by supporting the Ukrainian troops in the midterm. It may require further European forces to be deployed. Russia is... So this war is not going to be just on the war fronts. This is a fight that we need to fight to ensure stability. And that is why the heads of armies in Europe are going to meet to ensure that we can come to an agreement. We need to come up with a long-term peace plan, one that we can continue to check. This is what we have prepared with a number of European partners and Ukraine. This is what I went to present to the United States just a few days ago. And I want to believe that the United States will stay by our side, but they will need to be... But we need to be ready if that were not the case. Whether we come to peace now or in a somewhat distant future, Europe needs to be able to better defend itself and to deter other forms of invasion. Whatever the case may be, we need to arm ourselves more. We need to bolster our defense positions. We need to deter. And that is why we uphold NATO and our partnership with the United States of America. But we need more. We need to reinforce our own defense and security capabilities. The future of Europe is not going to be decided by Russia or by Washington. So yes, once again, the threat is now coming from the east, and this is a stark reminder of what has happened over these past 30 years since the fall of the Berlin Wall, that we have now moved into a new era. So we have the meeting of the heads of state and government of Europe at the Council, and we will take numerous decisions, things that France has been suggesting and proposing for many years. Increasing military budgets so that they can no longer be accounted for as state deficit, enabling nations to buy munitions, weapons, military equipment from European nations. We have been working so that we can better arm our military as fast as possible, and that means re-industrializing our region. I will sit down with competent ministers and industrial partners in the near future to discuss such a future. What we have been defending for the past 8 years is now a reality. We need to ensure that Europeans are ready to defend ourselves. We need to ensure that our European nations can properly defend and cooperate. And what I'm seeing now is a good thing. We have Germany, Poland, Denmark, the Baltic states, and numerous partners who have also announced that they are going to increase military spending. So with now action being taken, France has a unique role to play. We have the most effective army and military in all of Europe. This is something that we have been bolstering since the end of the Second World War, our nuclear capacity. And this gives us a certain position which is different to our neighbors. We didn't have to wait for an invasion in Ukraine for us to understand that we had to increase military spending. And this is what we have put through in numerous budgets to Parliament. We have doubled our military spending in the past 10 years. Given the threats and the acceleration of events, we have to make new budgetary decisions, additional spending, which are now essential. I have asked the government to work on such a budget as rapidly as possible. This will mean new investment, that we will have to reach out to private funding and public funding, again without increasing taxes. But for that, that means reform, choices, and it requires courage on our behalf. Our nuclear deterrence protects us. It is French from A to Z. It has been in place ever since 1964, and it has always played an essential role in ensuring peace and security in Europe. But when we want to reach out to our German Chancellor, our new German Chancellor,
de nos alliés du continent européen.
We want to ensure that that deterrence applies to all European
Quoi qu'il
allies.
arrive, la décision a toujours
Whatever
été et
may
restera
come
entre les mains
to
du
be,
président de la République, chef des armées.
that decision
Maîtriser
to
notre destin, devenir
use the
plus
nuclear deterrence will
indépendant
always remain in the hands of the
devons y
French
œuvrer
president and
plan
head of the armed
militaire, mais
forces.
aussi au plan économique.
So we
Oui,
can
l'indépendance économique,
ensure our
technologique,
independence
industrielle et
through military
financière
means,
sont
but
des
also through economic means, because economic
Nous
independence is
devons
essential for
aussi nous
us.
préparer à ce que les États-Unis
We need to prepare ourselves for a world where the United States of America will decide to implement greater tariffs on European products, which is what the president has just announced for Canada and Mexico.
tant pour l'économie américaine que pour la nôtre.
So this is going to have a negative impact on both the American economy and the French
Elle
economy,
accroît
the
la
European
difficulté
economy.
du moment.
It will exacerbate current difficulties that we are all facing, but it will not go without a
Alors, tout en
response from
préparant la
us.
riposte, avec nos collègues européens,
So we are working on a
continuerons,
response plan
comme je l'ai
with
fait,
European
voilà,
partners,
15
and
à tout tenter pour
in the
convaincre
meantime, we will continue
que cette
to
décision
strive
fait du mal à tous.
to convince
Et j'espère
the powers to be that that will have a negative impact on all. So we will have to convince and discourage the President of the United States of
le
America from
moment
taking
exige
such
des
action.
décisions sans précédent.
So this is a
Depuis
time where we will
bien
have
des
to
décennies.
make decisions
Sur notre
like we've never had to do
agriculture,
before
notre recherche, notre
in terms of
industrie,
agriculture, research,
sur toutes
our
nos politiques
industry,
publiques,
for
nous
all
ne
public
pouvons pas
policy.
avoir les mêmes débats que naguère.
The discussions that we're going to have will have to change. And that is why I have called on the Prime Minister and the government, and in fact I call upon all economic trade union operators to work together, to come forward with proposals given the new global context. The decisions that we will make in the coming days and years cannot be based upon past experience. Decisions that are happening now, and what is happening now, will change the world for the future. We cannot give in to defeatism. France will head towards a single goal, one of peace and freedom, true to its history, true to its own principles. Yes, this is what we believe in for our security, for our safety, but this is what we believe because it is a way of defending democracy. A belief in truth, in freely seeking respect within our societies, a freedom of expression, which is not just opening up avenues for hate speech. This is what we believe in. Our Europe has the economic power, the talent to be able to step up to the plate. And we have the means. Therefore, we now need to act united as Europeans, determined to protect ourselves. And that is why the French nation needs you. Political decisions, military equipment, that is just one part of the puzzle, but it will never replace the power that comes with the soul of a nation. Our generation will not be able to just live off the dividends of peace. It is up to us to sow the seeds for the future. So together, we will stand true. Long live the French Republic, long live France.